Today we're talking about new skins that are coming in the upcoming patch and that have been data mined by Daredust. You may already be familiar with that name. I've talked about one data mining by Daredust before. And when Daredust data mines, he does not only look up what skins are coming out, but he also goes into the in-game files and gets renders for all those skins, so we get a good idea of what they will look like in-game. In this case, Daredust has posted 4 new models, which we're going to look at, and all the links for them are in the description down below as well as a link to Daredust's profile. And now let's have a look at the skins. The first skin is Centurion Chiron. And this skin reminds me a lot of a skin that is already in the game, which is Hachiman as a cyber samurai. Kinda goes into the same theme of some cyborg robot type style for Chiron, only that in his case, he actually has a mechanical horse body fitting with the character. And we can see the in-game model here. With the in-game models, keep in mind, these are not fully 100% what they will look like in-game, because they will have some different shaders and effects that make them usually look a little bit better, but it'll give you a rough idea of what he'll look like, with details that can differ later on. In Chiron's case, for example, I could imagine that a lot of the dots and marks around his body may be more glowing in-game, giving him more of a futuristic look, because right now the armor is a little bit dark and a little bit washed out in that regard, and I think the, I guess, cyan or turquoise highlights would really offset that. Otherwise, we see the black and red theme being implemented in the skin as well, which is again the same as the cyber samurai Hachiman, so a very familiar pattern overall. Might be hard to tell the two apart when you're ulting with Hachiman. Next up is Cursed Scarab Capri. His design on the card actually is really cool because he's kind of set up like some sort of dungeon boss in an MMO or something. You can actually see a woman being shackled in the bottom left of the picture, and then this giant Capri basically breathing fire at her. In-game, the model looks like this. There are a lot of cool smaller details here. So for example, if you look at his claws, there are some patterns that actually, I think, show a skull or something similar, at least a face with an open mouth. And he's got this chain over his face. So overall, a very detailed, very structured skin. And especially from the back, we can see that as well. He's got this whole formation of, I don't even know how to call it, fencing, I guess, in a way, on his back. And he's got this fiery core as well, which again, I think will look a little bit more impressive in-game, especially since in his card it's also coming out from the mouth, so maybe the animations in that regard will be especially cool during abilities like the 2. And speaking of cool ability effects, the next card that we have here is Electric Buzz Amusing Cup. And this skin, from the name alone, I think indicates it'll have some pretty cool effects, because I'm expecting a lot of electric effects going on in his abilities. His card art is not that impressive, it just looks very much like any other AMC skin, really. Nothing all too new or surprising there. The in-game model looks a fair bit different. I think the different lighting really changes that here, and if he looks more like the way that we see him in this render here, then I would actually prefer that to the card art. I don't know where the card art is so comparatively dark, or if his in-game model will actually not be as lit up. But we can see that he has these very interesting structures in his wings that I guess would guide the electricity around. And he also has a saw blade in a way as a weapon. I'm not quite sure how that fits in with the theme. Maybe there's something I'm missing here. Maybe this is some reference to some electric device that was shaped like that. But overall, a bit of a cyberpunk-esque vibe at the same time as being themed around electricity. And on his back, we can also see that his wings are actually a device that is attached to him rather than actually being part of his body. So it seems to be that this skin represents him more as a human with cyberpunk-ish enhancements. And we can also see another object here, which is most likely going to be his hive. I don't really know how to explain this one. I don't know what exactly the words for the parts of this are. But what we can see from this is that it seems that the electric effect that will be, at least on this hive, will be yellow. Whereas typically what we see with lightning and electric effects in SMITE is that they're more blue-whitish. So it would be interesting to see a different kind of coloration style with electric skills for this cyberpunk specific aesthetic. And that brings us to, in my opinion, the best skin of this patch. Fae Mantis Arachne. An actual nice looking Arachne skin. I never thought I'd see it that day. Her theme here seems to be a praying mantis type of skin, but at the same time with very, I would say, royal looks to it. And we can even see some wings in the card art. In game, she looks like this, so she won't have the wings at all times. We can see, again, a lot of detail on the skin, especially on the legs, have all these vines or golden vines going around them. She has a very detailed crown, I would call it. And she overall looks very different from normal Arachne, but still recognizable as Arachne, and I think that's really well done. Funny enough, we can see her spider origins just a little bit at the back of her head, because she has a little spider web there in her hair, basically. So that's pretty nice, just a little bit of a nudge there. And we can see that in her animations, she actually shows her wings as well. So I guess this might be a taunt emote or something. And we can see here that she also has faces on her claws. It seems to be a common thing this patch, is to hide some faces somewhere in the model. And even more, if she goes up into her taunt form, and you see it on the back, then you can see yet another face under the wings, and I think the style here looks really, really cool. Last but not least, she actually has some special form when she goes into her ultimate, apparently, where she full on turns into a praying mantis, and she doesn't have her typical Arachne upper body anymore, but instead has this insect face. I could imagine that she possibly also has a special emote that turns her into that form and lets her walk around like that. What I'm wondering about is how exactly they're going to execute her too, because it would look a little bit weird if it was spider webs on a praying mantis, but we'll find out about that. Maybe it's vines or something like that. That's it for the skins, but I also wanted to let you know that there's a gemstorm event today, so you can get 90 gems for 3 first wins of the day, for those of you interested in that. Other than that, feel free to click the sub button and maybe the bell if you want to see more updates about SMITE in the future. Still working on the SMITE growing video as well as a Baba Yaga guide. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope to see you all for the next one soon. DukeSloth, out.